Did humanity's greatest leap, the Apollo 11 mission, really land us on the moon? That's the colossal question we're unpacking today. A tale of two perspectives. One camp stands firmly in their belief of this historic achievement, while the other questions its authenticity, labeling it an elaborate hoax. A debate that's been raging for over 5 decades. It's now time to delve into the details, unmask the mysteries, and present the evidence. So let's explore the journey of Apollo 11 and you can decide for yourself. The space race, a fierce competition between two world powers, the USA and USSR, set the stage for Apollo 11. This wasn't just about exploration, it was about proving supremacy, technological advancement, and the power of human will. It was the Cold War era, and the world was divided. The space race was an extension of this division, a non-violent battleground where the stakes were as high as the moon itself. Before Apollo 11, there were 10 Apollo missions, each crucial in building the foundation for the moon landing. It was a journey of incremental successes and heart-wrenching failures. Apollo 1 ended in a tragic fire, claiming the lives of 3 astronauts. But NASA learned, adapted, and persevered. The following missions paved the way, testing spacecraft systems, conducting lunar orbit, and even having astronauts walk in space. Then came Apollo 11, the mission that would change history. The crew was a trio of exceptional individuals. Neil Armstrong, the mission commander with his calm demeanor and sharp intellect. Buzz Aldrin, the lunar module pilot, a man known for his technical expertise and relentless determination. And finally, Michael Collins, the command module pilot, the man who would stay behind in lunar orbit, often referred to as the forgotten astronaut. The stage was set. The players were ready. The mission? To land a man on the moon and return him safely to Earth. With the world watching, Apollo 11 was ready for launch. On July 16, 1969, Apollo 11 launched from Kennedy Space Center, Florida. The world held its breath as the Saturn V rocket, the tallest, heaviest and most powerful rocket ever produced, roared into the sky. The technical aspects of this launch were as impressive as the rocket itself. The Saturn V was a 3-stage vehicle, each stage with its own engine and fuel supply. The first stage, the SIC, was responsible for propelling the spacecraft out of Earth's atmosphere. With 5 F1 engines burning a mixture of kerosene and liquid oxygen, it produced a staggering 7.5 million pounds of thrust. After about 2.5 minutes, the first stage was jettisoned, and the second stage, the S2, took over. 5 J2 engines burned liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen to keep the spacecraft moving towards its goal. Finally, the third stage, the SI4B, provided the final push to send Apollo 11 on its way to the moon. Now, the journey wasn't a simple point A to point B affair. The spacecraft had to follow a precise trajectory, a path known as the Hohmann transfer orbit, to reach the moon. This path ensured the most efficient use of fuel and the best chance of reaching lunar orbit. However, the journey wasn't without its challenges. The crew had to constantly monitor and adjust their course, correct minor technical glitches, and manage their limited resources. Not to mention the psychological strain of being more than 200,000 miles away from home. Yet, through a combination of skill, courage, and the incredible engineering marvel that was Apollo 11, they persevered. After a 4-day journey, the spacecraft entered lunar orbit. The stage was set, the moon was within reach, and the world watched in anticipation as the next phase of the mission was about to begin. After a 4-day journey, Apollo 11 was in lunar orbit. July 20th, 1969, a date forever etched in history as the day man first walked on the moon. Imagine the suspense as the lunar module, aptly named Eagle, began its descent. The world held its breath as the Eagle, with astronauts Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin aboard, descended towards the moon's surface. The landing was not without its trials, with alarms going off and fuel running low. But with their unwavering determination and skill, Armstrong and Aldrin guided the Eagle to a successful landing at a site they named Tranquility Base. The first footsteps on the moon were taken by Neil Armstrong, the mission commander. As he descended the ladder of the lunar module, he uttered the now famous words, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." These words, broadcast live to millions across the world, marked the epic of a new era in human exploration and achievement. Buzz Aldrin joined Armstrong on the lunar surface, and together they spent over 2 hours outside the module, conducting experiments and collecting samples. They planted the American flag and left behind a plaque that read, "Here men from the planet Earth first set foot upon the moon, July 1969. AD, we came in peace for all mankind." While on the lunar surface, Armstrong and Aldrin conducted several scientific experiments. The most notable among these was the deployment of a seismometer, designed to measure moonquakes and the impact of meteorites. They also set up a retroreflector array to measure the distance between the Earth and the Moon using lasers, an experiment that is still in use today. They collected lunar soil and rock samples, some of which revealed the presence of tiny glass beads formed by the intense heat of meteorite impacts. These findings provided invaluable insights into the Moon's geological history and the formation of our solar system. After spending 21.5 hours on the lunar surface, it was time for the perilous journey back. The return journey was just as crucial and dangerous as the journey to the Moon. After the historic moonwalk, the astronauts, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, had to ascend from the Moon's surface and rendezvous with the command module piloted by Michael Collins. This was no small feat. They had to launch from the Moon, something that had never been done before, and rejoin a spacecraft that was traveling at a speed of nearly 4,000 miles per hour. Once the lunar module docked with the command module, the astronauts jettisoned the lunar module and began their 3-day journey back to Earth. Despite the risks involved in re-entry, such as burning up in the Earth's atmosphere or missing the re-entry angle and bouncing off into space, the Apollo 11 crew made a successful splashdown in the Pacific Ocean on the 24th of July 1969. The world watched in awe as the astronauts were recovered by the USS Hornet and placed in quarantine as a precaution. The successful return of the Apollo 11 mission was celebrated worldwide. It was a moment that united humanity, transcending borders and differences. People all over the globe gathered around their radios and television sets, sharing in the joy of this monumental achievement. The moon landing was hailed as a victory of human ingenuity and determination. It represented the culmination of a decade-long space race between two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union. The astronauts were welcomed as heroes, and their feat gave a significant boost to the morale and prestige of the United States during the Cold War era. Despite the controversies that would later arise, the return of Apollo 11 and its aftermath were marked by a sense of euphoria and pride. It was a time when anything seemed possible, and the moon was no longer a distant, unattainable object, but a place where man had walked and left his mark. The Apollo 11 mission was hailed as a monumental achievement in human history. Despite the overwhelming evidence, some still question the authenticity of the moon landing. It's a fascinating aspect of human nature, this drive to question the established narrative, to dig deeper, and to seek the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it might be. One of the most frequently cited arguments by moon landing skeptics revolves around the United States flag planted by the Apollo 11 crew. The flag appears to be waving in the lunar photographs, but there's no air in space, so how can it be? The answer lies in the flag's construction. It was made with a horizontal rod to keep it extended in the airless environment, and the apparent waving is due to the astronauts' movements while planting it. Another point of contention is the conspicuous absence of stars in the lunar photographs. If they were really on the moon, shouldn't the stars be visible? Well, not exactly. The lunar surface is incredibly bright under direct sunlight, and the camera settings used were not sensitive enough to capture the faint light from distant stars against this bright foreground. It's similar to trying to take a photo of a brightly lit cityscape at night. The stars are there, but they're just not visible in the image. And then there's the infamous C rock. One of the lunar photos shows a rock marked with what appears to be the letter C, leading some to believe it's a prop marker. In reality, the C is likely a result of a hair or other debris caught in the photo processing equipment, as it does not appear in all versions of the photo. These are just a few of the many arguments presented by those who question the moon landing. Each one, when examined closely, has a logical and scientifically sound explanation. It's a testament to the thoroughness of the mission and the dedication of the people behind it, who made sure every detail was accounted for. But the evidence supporting the moon landing is irrefutable. After all, the moon rocks brought back by Apollo 11 are unlike anything found on Earth, and the mission's impact on human history is undeniable. The Apollo 11 moon landing, a giant leap for mankind or the greatest hoax ever? We've journeyed together through the build-up, the launch, the landing, and the aftermath of Apollo 11. We've delved into the swirling controversy that continues to ignite debate. We've examined the evidence, the anomalies, and the rebuttals. But in the end, the decision is yours. Was it a triumphant moment in human history, or an elaborate deception? The truth is out there, and it's up to you to decide.